Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the JustUs Podcast. I'm only joined here with Tobs 26 because the other guys are currently busy with college stuff. But hey, we decided to let them continue on with that stuff, and you know what they say, the show must go on.
Yep, hello everyone.
But anyways, today's episode will be a revisit of 3 topics, and one that's fairly new and is also an anime, which may mostly stick out from the other stuff we're about to talk about. But anyways, in order, we'll be discussing Uncut Gems, Attack on Titan season finale, as well as the series finale, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So of course, let's begin with UG, starring Adam Sandler. Now, if you guys don't know, I have a huge dislike for Adam Sandler's prior movies because they're mostly the same garbage. It's always just him in some sort of role where he's like this father guy that wants to have a lot more better stuff, or he's on a vacation that doesn't go his way. Same sort of toilet humor, same sort of unlucky stuff, same sort of quote unquote message. And I got pissed off the moment I saw Jack and Jill, which I'll never get out of my head because Jack and Jill is a fucking terrible movie. First of all, the jokes in that movie are just abysmal, and second of all, it just seems like a random film that shouldn't exist.
What the fuck with that movie? I even remember watching it on cinemas, and it was just.
You saw it on cinemas, so you were able to hear, she Sandler, taking a massive dump after that spicy meal with. And there's also a fucking commercial for Baskin Robbins, which just really pissed me off. Or was it Dunkin' Donuts? Either way, same company. Who gives a shit? But it pissed me off even more with stupid ass movie named That's My Boy, which the less said about that movie, the better. Like, if I ever see someone ask me what I think about that movie, I just say skin tone, chicken bone, leave me alone, head ass, and just walk away. But Uncut Gems, on the other hand, is a very beautiful movie. I mean, first of all, Adam Sandler is not in a role where he's in the same sort of stereotypical Adam Sandler portrayal. Like, he's different this time.
I mean, I'm amazed. In first instance, I'm amazed by the accent. It's super annoying, but at the same time, it's so particular.
Yeah, it doesn't annoy me per se, but it immediately makes me realize, wait a second, I'm not in an I'm not in an Adam Sandler movie. I'm not in an Andler movie. I'm not in a Jack and Jill 2 or a Grown Ups 3. This is, obviously this is the Safdie Brothers film, obviously, but that being said, I still absolutely love what happened in the movie from beginning to end. It just feels so distinct from what Adam Sandler is usually known for.
That's what you get with A24 movies. They're a whole experience. Each one of them, they're just so good. And I mean, hiring Adam Sandler specifically to be the protagonist was both very crazy and a great idea.
Yeah, that's where I pretty much see his character, Howie Ratner. He is the sort of guy that's a scumbag, obviously. Yet, despite his scumminess, he's still a good protagonist nonetheless. I mean, he's in a sort of situation where he's got even people that are twice as scummy as he is. I mean, for crying out loud, they pretty much chased him out of a school and threatened to beat his ass and even stripped him of his clothes while locking him up in one of his cars.
Yeah. That ended up being funny, but also super tense. All the build up to that scene. Oh god.
Yeah, and
I mean, it's just this motherfucker. The one Adam Sandler plays. He's just so unlikable, but you somehow end up rooting for him every time. And I don't know why, but it's so good.
It's just. He's so strange. He's like this weird specimen of a character. Because he's not in some sort of middle ground. Like, he has a family, obviously, but at the same time, he's also with this other chick. On top of that, he's also got like a double life. Aside from his normal job, he's also betting on stuff, especially on KG, a famed basketball player.
Yeah, he has a gambling issue for sure.
Yeah, it's especially more prominent when he starts to get in arguments with other people, likes of which lead to him usually getting injured badly or him running out or burning bridges. But still, you just want to root for him and make sure that he
Mm.
gets it to the end.
Yeah, and you have the NBA player,
Yep.
who I didn't
KG.
expect to have him in the movie, but he's actually there.
Yeah, it's just like he doesn't feel like, compared to like a lot of fictional celebrities or people that are pretending to be a celebrity or adding celebrities in general. This movie doesn't do what we've seen with other Adam Sandler films, which feel like they're just there to get attention, whereas KG's portrayal or KG's involvement in the movie itself is a lot more seamless. On top of that, you have other
Mhm.
characters to round out the cast that are pretty much in the same sort of game that Howie is in. On top of the boss that Howie got money from, and the family, and everyone else that he runs into or has some sort of relationship with, or friendship or rivalry with.
Yeah.
It's just not unlike any other thing I've seen Adam Sandler in. I'm sure people are going to say stuff that his prior movies were great, but it's going to take a lot more than just slightly less toilet humor to convince me that they're superior to Uncut Gems.
I don't think so. I think Uncut Gems is definitely the best movie he did.
Yep. Plus,
Although
also,
I do like the one with Big Daddy. I like that one, and also the one with the remote control. I
yeah,
don't.
Click was decent, but
Yeah,
I like this better.
yeah, me too. Click, wasn't it Click? I like that one.
Plus, I'd honestly trade in the remote for the Opal, which I agree with him the moment I saw it too. Like the same sort of mindset of going, "Holy shit, I'm gonna come." That line is just iconic. Yeah, I still even mention it to this day when I ever see stuff like a new movie or a new action figure reveal. Like with the movie stuff, yeah, it's just one of those mindsets that honestly beats the typical trailer reactions of saying stuff like "OMG, all this Easter egg stuff." Like, I'm a simple man. If I say "Holy shit, I'm gonna come," that means that I have a lot more excitement than any of those guys on YouTube trailer reactions.
Yeah, for sure. Most of those reactions are fake. So yeah, the I'm
Plus,
gonna come is legit. It's pure.
yeah, it feels more human, I guess. Like maybe not human per se, but it feels more like something you'd hear someone say, not for the mimetic nature, but just because that's who they are.
Yeah.
But if that's not enough to love Uncut Gems, then how about the bling? Because my god, the bling in that movie just looks so good. It's got more bling than your
Oh
average
yeah.
rap video.
Everything looks beautiful. So beautiful.
Even the blinged out Furbies do, because that thing just looks gorgeous. I don't know how they got the license to use that from Hasbro, but man, just makes me want to look for one of those, novelties of blinged out figurines and display it in a trophy case or something.
Well, I think it would be pretty expensive, but do you want to take the risk and buy one of those?
Yeah, even the blinged out Furby would be a nice addition, simply because it's from a movie I love and it looks like ridiculously blinged out and I love it.
Wasn't it introduced like in the beginning of the movie, kind of showing it off to KG?
Yeah, pretty much showing off what the kind of stuff that Howard has. On top of that, it also leads us to one of my favorite scenes in the movie, aside from the gonna come scene and the betting that occurred while the game happened near the end. We got to see
Oh yeah.
KG looking into the opal, talking about stuff like dinosaurs in the background, but as minimal as the visuals are, they still look fantastic for a movie
Yeah.
that's mostly minimum on visuals. Like,
Mm.
you just don't get stuff like this very often, and seeing the images flash before his eyes until he starts to lean on the table too much and break the glass is just like, again, just makes me think this feels like a different movie that I'm used to with Adam Sandler.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I think this movie got out of me some of the biggest reactions I ever got from any movies because it's just so compelling to watch some of the scenes, specifically the one where they're trying to get the rock, the gem,
Yeah,
for a big prize, and they ended up losing it, and that I think he was like his uncle or something ends up having the bigger amount of money to buy it. That was just frustrating.
yeah. It's also especially considering the fact that there's even scenes like near the end when he tells the chick to basically go to the lottery or the gambling site, the casino.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a casino, and get all the money to bet on KG in the game. And like the way it was handled was just like you'd be wondering like, okay, what's gonna happen next? What's gonna happen next? What's he gonna do? Who's gonna do what? Because the dude basically locked up the shop to make sure that the other guys don't pop in. They could have easily done something like break the glass windows, but they just stood there waiting for him to win. And it wasn't until he
I
won.
think they were like, how do you say it? The blimps.
Yeah, they were just waiting for the moment to basically see if he'd win or not. And when he won, uh, like it was at that moment where they decided to just shoot him in the head and loot the place. And I'm just thinking to
Oh
myself,
yeah.
oh damn, you guys thought you were going to be nice on him? Nope. The moment he opens the door, he gets shot.
Even I forgot about the gun. So when he shoot, I was like, what?
Yeah, I was thinking to myself, wait, they're not gonna leave the place. They're not gonna like be reasonable. They're gonna kill him nonetheless. They fucking hate his guts. Like honestly, I never have been surprised by the inclusion of a gun in a movie. Even Joker can't beat that.
Yeah.
And sorry, Mister, you get what you fucking deserve, Mister Society, Mister the Police. I have something to say about your son. He got hit by a truck driver. He's dead, Mister Clown. But Uncut Gems had a better gun surprise scene than
It,
Joker. Hashtag
it
hot
did.
take. So, okay, the portrayal of Adam Sandler as Howie Randner and all the stressful scenes aren't enough to make us love Uncut Gems. I mean, we already love this movie, but like, if that's not enough, then the music is even one nice addition to the film itself. I mean, where do I begin
Oh,
with the music?
where do we begin? Because I don't know if I told you this, but I tried to watch 2 times Uncut Gems. The first time, I think I got a headache because of the soundtrack, and then I could finally finish. And like, holy shit, it's just wow, whole experience you get out of the movies, and the music complements it so well.
Yeah, the music itself is just like unreal. It honestly makes me think of the synth nature of vaporwave. But whereas vaporwave is all about the sorts of aesthetics, the pinkish
Yeah.
skies, the grid lines, anime characters doing a repeated motion, or stuff like product placement or mall soft and all that stuff. Uncut Gems feels more like its own thing. Like it excels vaporwave,
Yeah, much more mystic.
especially in the opening. Like it goes from like this very mystical song to then going into a more uh, ritual sort of song, which I just listened to happily during the beginning of the movie as Howard Renner went through his usual shtick. Oh god, like Daniel Lapatin, I hope I pronounced his name right, just did a album or a selection of music that I don't think any other non-big franchise film would top, if you ask me. And especially true considering the fact that the music itself just feels, like we said, unreal. And I'm very happy with how it turned out overall. The instrumentals alone are just so good. Plus, after listening to stuff like Vaporwave and the same sort of stuff like the slow synths and the little beats, it's always refreshing to listen to the ballad of Howie Bling and Followed and all the other music. But I still love the opening music as well as the final music that plays when Howard got shot.
Yeah. I don't exactly remember the music there, but I know it was building up and becoming more tense.
Yeah, like it doesn't have the typical sort of instrumentals that you'd expect from a more tense moment. It just sounds like its own thing, and that's what I like about it. It's got its own identity. It doesn't feel like music I've heard before. It feels unfamiliar, yet still good.
Yeah, it's like they get some inspiration from Stanley Kubrick, I think, because the music part of the movie is so abnormal, and it's like telling a whole new story for the story itself. It's so good.
Yep.
I just love that.
And even we have like, and even if we have like the somewhat somber ending music, the film ends off with "I'll Fly with You," which as like Eurobeat as it sounds, I still like it. It fits in with the movie quite well, and on top of that, it definitely signifies one thing: even if he was shot, Howard still won.
Yeah, he won.
Yep, the Virgin Mob Boss versus the Chad Howard Ratner.
Well, and the ending is with his girlfriend taking all the money, so that kind of ends up with some mystery.
Yeah, though honestly, I wouldn't really need much of a sequel because it's not like you're going to revive Howard Ratner. It's not like there's some sort of like mystical power from the jewel. I mean, all we need is just like the fact that KG saw these images. I mean, what's it going to turn into now? A superhero movie? I'm just happy with this movie on its own.
Yeah, no, I don't think they even have in mind a sequel because it's just not a good idea. The story is about Howard. He's dead too.
Yeah, basically his goal to win no matter what. And even if he's a scumbag, there's still ways for us to root for him. And yeah, I hope he's happy in heaven or hell, wherever he's gone to.
I don't think heaven, probably hell, but but I think hell would be more appropriate for a character like Howard.
Yeah, but still, he
would feel cool there.
Yep, especially as he tricks all the people in hell with his own gambling addiction and outright winning all the time because that's who he is. So yeah. Uncut Gems, I gotta give a 5 out of 5. It's just too good. It's just so good. It's unreal, and yeah, it's just I just don't think I'll get a movie experience like this ever again, which isn't a bad thing. Like each movie should impress me in its own way, and Uncut Gems feels like a memorable experience that if any movie wants to mimic it, they're going to have to learn a lot about it. Next up, we'll be talking about Attack on Titan, the series finale, as well as the season finale. Now, Tobs, I know you know more about this series more than I do, so fill us in about it.
So, we already got 3 seasons, which in the beginning nobody expected it to be this good and such a complex story. But it all built up into just a very spiritual type of argument, which I don't think anybody pictured it. And I just this 4th season obviously is gonna tell the whole story from a news perspective, and I think most of the viewers will be surprised. I already watched the first episode, which is out. And what can I say about Attack on Titan? It's just, you have a lot of videos already about it being criticized, analyzed. And I just think that it elevated the industry of anime, and it's becoming more serious for it all, because we usually relate anime with pretty shitty stuff. But in the case of Attack on Titan, it's not only more occidental in its storytelling, but it's also very respectable on its writing, which is so connected all the time. I just love it.
The comments on anime usually being seen as shitty may upset some people, I know, but still, I do appreciate the fact that there's something that has to be said about Attack on Titan that makes it feel distinct, like it feels more of an ongoing experience.
Yeah, there are a lot of stereotypes, so that's what I said. That's why I said shitty, because really they're a very weird thing around the anime environment.
Right. What do you think about this final season compared to the prior seasons in terms of how much it fulfills the overall story?
Well, first of all, I'm gonna gamble like Howard and say that this is not the series finale. This is like the last season, but not exactly how it's gonna end everything. I think there will probably be either a second part or a movie, because you can't tell the whole story that is left yet. And I think that this season, of course, will be very different, because there has been a change of studio, because, well, the previous studio was a very traditional one, which couldn't fulfill the whole production that it needed. And they did awesome. I think it's probably one of the best productions in history for an anime. It was just glorious. So of course, some people now could be disappointed that the art style changed, but still, this new studio is very good. For me personally, it didn't disappoint. I think they're doing a gigantic effort, and I just couldn't be more grateful, because the real way to experience Attack on Titan is the anime. I read the manga, and the anime is far, far better, because it just has soundtrack and the voice actors, and how you actually see the action being unfolded. So good.
Damn. A comment on the anime being better than the manga. Now, that's something you don't see very often.
No, actually not. Because when you adapt, I think I don't know that much of anime, but usually when you adapt a manga, kind of mess up with the story and the writing. But in this case, the author is so involved with the product that it just can't go wrong. So good.
Yeah, usually you get sort of comments like these when people say stuff like, oh, the book was better than the movie. But yeah, it sounds promising that the anime itself surpasses the manga, especially considering the other stuff that they have that you normally wouldn't hear from a book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of like with Harry Potter, that Harry Potter became much more popular as a movie. Of course, the books, all of them are better, I think.
Yeah, even though we talked about Harry Potter last time.
Okay, no, let's not talk about Harry Potter, because
yeah, fuck Harry Potter. Let's talk about
controversy with J.K. Rowling and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Want to get involved.
So, how would you rank the seasons of Attack on Titan?
Oh, fuck. You know, Attack on Titan is so beautiful. You kind of don't think of seasons as something separated of themselves. Everything is just whole machine working to make a great story. But I do think that the first season is the weakest one, because it kind of goes with the generic shonen for anime, but not at the same time because it's still pretty unique, and you feel there is a lot of stakes in the story which you don't usually kind of capture.
All right.
So it's still above average, you know. But then the second season, which wasn't too well received back then, now is one of my favorites. And you also need to take into account that the third season is divided in 2 parts, so that kind of could be judged differently. I think the first part is an absolute change, an absolute twist on the story, because it becomes much more political. And it depends, of course, in your taste, because some people didn't like that one that much. And for sure, the best part of the show was season 3, part 2.
All right.
For sure. And I don't want to spoil anything. I could, but I won't. Because it's just one of the best things I ever watched in my life. No kidding. And I watched a lot of stuff. But there is one episode that it's even been competing against Ozymandias, which is the best episode of Breaking Bad, into which one of those is the best in history. That good is that season.
All right. Now, what is your favorite character or characters from Attack on Titan in general?
Oh, well, it's gonna sound cliche, but obviously one of the best ones is Levi, which probably is the most popular one. So I'll just mention it and move it aside.
All right.
But the characters that absolutely shine in writing, the more you watch it, is probably Erwin, the commander, and Armin, who starts off being quite annoying, sort of a fanboy anime character.
Oh my god, a fanboy anime character?
Yeah, sort of like those. But he ends up being absolutely the freaking most badass out of all of them. It's just, wow. The character development in this show particularly is fantastic.
Yeah, definitely something that people would not expect these days, but yeah. What do you hope for in the future of Attack on Titan after this season? I know you mentioned another part or a movie, but let's break it down a bit.
That's just me speculating, because I'm not sure. But I think it would be a good idea to do a movie, because it will need a lot of money. The production is going to be huge. So trying to put that into a 2.5-hour movie would be quite smart. And I just hope that that doesn't mean you will need to cut off part of the story. I don't think so. I still need to finish this season, but it started off great, and it's still very faithful. So, nothing. I can't wait. I think this Sunday will be the next episode. Just can't wait.
All right. But now I presume that there's not much else to say about the show itself, but how would you rank the series overall, even without these seasons being completed?
I'm not a person who likes to rank stuff. I would just say that it's going towards a place that could be very prestigious. I think it could become one of the best animes in history, and probably be called a masterpiece if it is finished off as it deserves to. Because we have encountered scenarios where great stories haven't had good endings, like Game of Thrones, which everyone was saying, wow, this is probably the best show in history, what a masterpiece, and then it ended up being disappointing. So I just don't want to jump into saying this is a series 10 out of 10, I do want to say that it could,
All
and
right.
I hope so.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind checking it out at some point because it definitely feels more like the uh, standout series compared to most of the anime that people are used to expecting. And I'm pretty sure there's some friends that I know that love anime quite a bit. So all I'm just saying is that as someone that's not into anime much, I want to see what could be unique.
Yeah, go ahead.
Next up, we'll be talking about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, which a lot of PR fans, whether they're Mighty Morphin obsessed or love the series in general, might expect me to think that it's a great movie. But I have to say, I disagree.
No, he's going to turn it up.
Well, let's start off with my thoughts on the story itself. First off, it's different from the TV show canon, which obviously makes sense because Angel Girl looks different in the movie than on the TV show. The suits are different aesthetics. I mean, they're more armor like, but still physical costumes, not CGI Iron Man stuff. And of course, they have Ivan Ooze, who is not in the TV show. Plus, I don't think they even had their original Dinosaurs or Thunderzords. So, the fact that it's a different story is confusing, but at least it doesn't contradict the TV show canon.
Okay, that's a good step, but still, there are a lot of details you should explain.
Well, where do I begin with the pros? The pros are the fact that I like the cast still. I mean, admittedly, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers actors nowadays are kind of, well, aside from not being their characters that much, they usually seem like the kind of people that would say, "Oh yeah, I like your stuff for mentioning the TV show they only recognize me for." But the cast itself is perfectly fine. I do appreciate that they try to make it look a little more cinematic in terms of the visuals because the command center is more of a command center than in the TV show. It's looked more like a simple room with some beep boop lights. On top of that, we have a take on a Megazord, the Ninja Megazord, which is CGI, not a physical costume, but it looks shit. The CGI is, and we're not even in the cons yet. But yeah, I do appreciate that they try to make it look a little more cinematic for the most part. Even the theme song is a little more quote unquote big than the TV show one. Even though the vocals themselves don't sound quite as rough as Ron Wasserman's, if I'm being honest.
Okay, so those are the pros. Anything else?
An additional pro that I do have is the fact that, as much as I don't like the new characters, which are mainly just Ivan Ooze and that pig character who was never in a TV show either, I do appreciate the fact that no one really feels excluded from the film, aside from, Squat, Finster, Bamboo, or Jason, Trini, Zach because he left the show or their actors left the show. No one really feels left out from the cast. That was the thing that was initially going to happen when Fox got more involved with Power Rangers, the 1995 movie. But thankfully, the actors got involved. Like they can, like, admittedly, they're no Oscar award-winning actors, but they keep the show running, which is something that I can easily say about any PR season.
Okay, that's a good thing to hear because the human part of the story is still there.
Yeah, and the story I have a bit of an appreciation for because the Rangers have a reason to go after Ivan Ooze because Zordon was attacked by Ivan Ooze when he broke into the command center and destroyed everything. Plus, it's one of the rare instances in Power Rangers history where a character can use the word dying or die or death. They usually say
Oh,
destroyed or eradicate, which not a bad thing, but honestly, it's weird when when a kids show can say the word die, but Power Rangers can't. It's inconsistent. That's a talk for another day, but I just still find it weird when they say stuff like "I'm going to destroy you" instead of "I'm going to kill you," or "You're killing me," or "You're going to die," all that sort of stuff. Like it just feels unnatural for PR to not use the word die or death or kill.
yeah.
And of course, Another pro is Dulcia, who was once again done a TV show, but she was an interesting character because on top of having a really interesting character design, which is mostly skimpy, which you wouldn't see very often in PR history, the character was able to help with the world building of the universe of Power Rangers because she was from a different planet, she knew Zordon, and she was able to help the Rangers look for the Ninjetti powers, or at least I think they were Ninjetti powers. Oh yeah, and also like the battle against the Tengus and the skeleton dinosaurs, which is kind of funny that there was like a skeleton of or fossil or skeleton of a Triceratops involved in the fight, but they don't really have the dinosaurs.
Yeah, at least we get a Triceratops,
Yeah,
which is cool.
And of course, Billy mentioned it in the Morph roll call, which is funny. I mean, I know they try to make it different from the TV show, but honestly, I much prefer when they like have the cheesy but still iconic background of the morpher, their character inside the morpher as a morph. You know, like Tyrannosaurus, saber-tooth tiger, and all that. Whereas here, they just like say their animal name, like pterodactyl. You hear a clank sound when they put the morpher. The coin pops open, and they just already morphed into costume. It looks like a amateur attempt at a morph sequence.
At least they try.
Yeah. Oh, and they also got the morph order wrong, which is stupid. Oh, and I also like the way the kids helped out and saved their parents because even if they're from a different generation, even if the kids were in the 90s, were all about enjoying their free life and going on AOL and having a different point of view from the parents who worked their asses off, at least the kids are willing to save them from the stupidity of Ivan Ooze's semen. I mean, purple ooze that he sold to the kids. Plus,
so it doesn't translate as well as the series into a movie.
Well, the thing was that the movie itself was from a time period when the series was just new, and much like something like the 1986 Transformers movie, it's going to be weird when you have a movie that tries to do all these big things, but at the same time, it sort of makes you feel confused. Like in the case of the Transformers movie, a lot of 80s kids were crying their asses off when they saw their favorite Autobots die, all because of some stupid reason. Whereas here, it was confusing that first of all, it's a different universe, and second of all, it had a more of like a cheesy tone than a TV show did, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
You know, like a good example would be how if I was younger, I definitely see, 1966 Batman as a serious show. Like, obviously, it's not. Adam West Batman is campy as fuck, but I still felt like it was something I'd definitely be invested in, like in one of those old serials. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whereas a movie like this just feels cheesy, even though it's more of a superhero based show that's got more stuff going on than Adam West Batman did. Yet somehow, Adam West Batman, despite being campy, felt a little serious for some reason. Like, I don't get it. Maybe it's just the fact that this was the 90s and the other one's from the 60s.
Yeah, me neither. I don't get it when they try to do a movie out of a series, and instead of doing a serious movie, try to make the whole story more intense. They actually make it more, like you say, campy. I don't know which word you use.
Campy for Adam West Batman, cheesy for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. The movie.
Oh yeah, cheesy.
Like,
they try to make it more cheesy just to appeal to a wider audience, probably, but it ends up disappointing actual fans.
Well, actual fans love this movie. It's just me that feels like I'm not that interested in the movie, or I'm not that huge of a fan, rather. Which we're about to delve into in a bit, but like
I heard it wasn't well received. Actually,
the critics are one thing because they are like more likely to give praise towards movies that feel more genuine as films, whereas this feels more like a toy commercial. Like,
Oh,
The MMPR fan base and the Power Rangers fans in general love this movie because, of course, they will.
okay, you just don't.
Yeah, I'm just not a huge fan of the movie. Like, I still kind of like it because of the reasons I mentioned, but we're about to delve into the cons. I mean, first of all, Ivan News is one stupid bitch in this movie.
Ooh.
Like, he's like, when he woke up, he said something dumb like, "Yeah, I missed out all the stuff. I missed out like the Spanish Inquisition, or whatever, or the Black Plague, or the Brady Brunch reunion." It's like, bro, what is this? It reminds me of something you'd hear in a Ninja Turtles movie. Oh yeah, the '90s Ninja Turtles movies were a lot more campy than the TV show was, even though that was campy in its early days.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, these franchises are confusing. Oh boy.
They are very good.
I don't want to hear
Yeah.
people complain about Beast Morphers because at least that was tonally consistent, but this was just like, what am I doing with my life? Like, yeah, Ivan News, I hate it so much. Like, he looks stupid, obviously, and this was from the time period when Lord Zed was like called out by the soccer moms for being too creepy for the '90s kids. But like, yeah, like obviously people call them Karens now, but honestly, soccer moms is a better term. But like, they were
I
saying stuff
agree.
like, "My little Jimbo's freaked out by Lord Zed. He wet his pants and screamed the moment he saw him on the screen." Like when I was young, I may have seen the Mighty Morphin reruns on Jetix, but I was never afraid of Lord Zed. I thought he was awesome. I liked his design. Like he had like his exposed flesh. He had no skin. He has like a night visor sort of helmet with like little Z on the top, and he looks badass.
So there's definitely something not adding up.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, the parents' complaints about Lord Zed probably led to Ivan Ooze being this cheesy villain who's more of more like someone you'd expect Jim Carrey to play. In fact, I had a feeling they wanted to have Jim Carrey play this guy because he's done, The Mask. The Mask was
Oh,
a very iconic individual because of his personality. But like, this is the poor man's
yeah.
Mask. Like, the Mask was at least a slick dude. He was pretty much the kind of character you'd like to see in action, whereas Ivan Ooze just feels more like this goofy ass character from not even Power Rangers, but from some other series, like a terrible B movie.
Not the B movie.
No, not that B movie. The other B movies, the genre of B movies.
Oh,
Yeah, not even Ivan Ooze deserves to be in the B movie with Seinfeld.
don't you dare
Yeah, I wouldn't
say
put him in there
about
either.
it.
But like, yeah, I hate Ivan Ooze, and like obviously a lot of monsters in MMPR, especially, were these rubber suits, but at least they felt somewhat convincing. They fit in, whereas Ivan Ooze just feels like this sort of guy that just doesn't belong in a group photo. Oh yeah,
That's sad.
and I'm just realizing that this pig monster that was also there, like, is it trying to be like the next Pudgy Pig, who was popular for eating up a lot of food as well as the Rangers' weapons at one point? I don't know. He was never in the series, and his far superior monster form, Pudgy Pig, was. Also, I know this was before Power Rangers in Space was made, which revealed that Zordon, when he got killed by Andros, could result in a villain wipeout. Basically, if you remember, Zordon told Andros to break his glass tube so he can save the day and have the bad guys be wiped out before the fucking Thanos snap. Is it weird to say that it's stupid to see that not be the case in this movie? Because, like I said, his tube was shattered, but Ivan Ooze survived. I just like confused with Ivan Ooze. Like, I hate Ivan Ooze with a passion. And I saw his action figure where he looked like he has this cartoony face to him. I just want to like punch him in the face badly. Then again, I couldn't find a copy of it at Toys R Us because fucking Toys R Us is not available where I live. It's like far away.
So you just want an action figure to
Like, I wanted
step on it.
I went to punch the figure's face because I hate the look of the guy, And the action figure looked even worse. He looked like a cartoony version of him, and I wanted to display him getting his ass beaten by the movie Rangers, which I couldn't buy because I was poor at the time. And with the Lightning collection, I don't think I'd buy them. I'd buy them either. But hey, if they make like a Lightning collection Ivan News, I definitely display him getting his ass beaten by the movie Rangers. And be like, "Fight back, bitch! Fight back!" He's like screaming at the top of his lungs. If only I could find the source of that sound. But yeah, I've already spent a lot of time complaining about Ivan Ooze, or aka Ivan Cum, or Ivan Seaman, or Ivan Jizz. Ivan Jizz! Oh my god! Also, the fact that it's in a different continuity is weird. Like, I understand they don't want to confuse you with the TV show, but like, why make, if you're gonna make it a movie? Like, it's just so weird. I know they want to make it a different universe to not confuse it with a TV show, but like, it just feels weird. How are they gonna explain the backstory with what happened in that universe? Will we ever get to see the two versions of Mighty Morphin cross paths in the Boom Studios comics? I don't think so. It would be cool actually, because they're different from one another. And I even dreamt up a story of a Forever Red sequel where Rocky from the '95 movie teamed up with the other Red Rangers in the TV show canon, as well as the 2017 version of Jason.
All right.
But yeah, different universe is understandable, but it still feels weird because, like, you're watching a simultaneous Mighty Morphin Power Rangers series, and then there's this, and if you're not paying attention to the series, you'd be thinking, "Wait, why are their suits different?" And that's how I felt. It took me long enough to realize that the movie was not canon to the TV show, because in the movie, the Rangers lost their powers because of Ivan Jizz and because Zordon was dying. Whereas in the TV show, the Rangers lost their powers because the far superior Rita Revolto, brother of Rita Repulsa, was basically responsible for destroying the Thunder Zords. And the Rangers pretty much had to find a way to get back against the bad guys. So they went to look for Ninjor, who may not be a lady in a scampy outfit, but is still kind of cool despite his goofy voice. And that's how they got the ninja powers, as well as the Ninja Zords too. But like, oh god, the Ninja Zords. Okay, you know how hard it is to make Megazords look good in CGI?
I don't know how hard it is now, but back then.
Yeah, like, the thing is that the Megazords perform differently from your CGI Transformers. Like, the Transformers are obviously a little lighter, whereas a Megazord feels very heavy, especially in the costume, where it's a real person that struggles to move around with the materials used for the design.
Okay.
And I think the first legitimate CGI Megazord was in the 2017 movie, since, like, the first one I ever got since the '95 movie, that is, in terms of CGI Zords. But like, even though the CGI was better on that and it moved better, it still wasn't a good design because it didn't look like a Megazord. It looked more like maybe a version of the Ranger design. I don't know. That's another movie to talk about for later. But you would think with the simple design of the Ninja Megazord, Bear becomes the torso, Frog becomes the legs, Ape and the Wolf become the arms, and the Crane becomes the head, and the Falcon becomes the wings. You expect it to be much easier to work with, right? It looks even worse than on the TV show, because the TV show looked fairly slick, whereas in the movie it looked awful, like worse than any other CGI from, stuff like Independence Day or even Beast Wars.
Ah, shit.
Yeah, they made it look much smaller. They added in these unnecessary gears. It had this chrome look to it, but it just looked awful. And of course, they gave it proper hands, even though it didn't have proper hands in the TV show. And the face is just ugly. Like, there's no proper face. It looks like just a regular ass cockpit. Like, it looks like they just like shrunk down the scale of the model used for the cockpit footage scenes and plopped it onto the face. Because if you remember in the TV show, they actually have like a set where the Rangers are in a cockpit, and it made sense because we get to see them from up close, whereas far away you just see the face of the Megazord or the chest, no problem.
So you think that maybe it would have ended up better if they went for practical but a
Yeah,
bigger budget?
yeah, like the Turbo movie. That's not a better movie either. I kind of like it a bit more because at least it feels more consistent with a TV show, but I don't like much of it either. At least that movie had a practical Megazord design. Turbo Megazord isn't my favorite design ever, but at least it looked good on the show as well as the movie. Plus, I like this transformation sequence better than the TV show because it still used practical effects, practical props. And
Yeah.
I think the costume was made in the U.S., which is weird. Like, how come this was one of the rare instances where they make their own Megazord footage back then? Why don't we get that nowadays? I know there's certain fight scenes that would benefit from new footage. It's just a shame that only Turbo had a decent attempt at making a Megazord look good in a movie. Even if it was a costume, at least it performed nicely compared to the crappy 90s CG Ninja Megazord or the oversized Ranger of the Universe looking 2017 Megazord.
Yeah, I think maybe that was the bad decision.
Yeah. Also, this may sound like a nitpick, but I don't feel there's much of a motivation behind this, like the story of the show. It's like the fact that they could have easily tried to solve a problem or two. It just tried to pad it out with the story. It just feels a little weird because, like, I don't know. I think there's more of a motivation behind the Rangers looking for Ninjor because they knew that they had their powers lost. Whereas the command center, like you'd expect the command center to not extend to the Zords. I mean, we don't know much about the series to determine just how the powers work because we only see the command center get damaged, whereas in the TV show the Zords were damaged and extends to their powers as well, which is one of those Mighty Morphin inconsistencies that I just can't get out of my head. It's hard to pronounce, hard to like describe, and hard to really justify.
Yeah, I get it.
So overall, I have to say that the 1995 Power Rangers movie is only good if you're one of those like 90s nostalgia babies, or if you're really a huge fan of Mighty Morphin or Power Rangers in general. But like as someone that's seen plenty of stuff for PR, not just the three movies, but like pretty much every season, I've seen better stuff. The TV show can do so many good things without a movie. I just prefer when the series can actually make great stories. Like, obviously, you don't have to make it as serious as Logan, but at the same time, I much prefer the writing style of the post Zordon era and the Disney era. Whereas the initial Zordon era stuff just felt a little too 90s ish and dated, although it got better as time went on. Less goody two shoe ish, more let's try and save the day. And of course, the Neo Saban era tried to capture Mighty Morphin, and we've yet to see what Hasbro can do past Beast Morphers. So, MMPR 95, I hate to be a meanie, but you are not more phenomenal. I'm still waiting for a nice PR movie to pop up from Hasbro.
Hey, you criticized for shitting on some anime, and you just took a nice dump on the nostalgia curve.
Yeah, it's so good. But we're not done yet. We're going to see if that'll happen again with another beloved movie or franchise or whatnot.
Yeah.
And finally, we'll be taking a look at Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. 2 years ago, it was released in theaters. Give or take the release, it might have been a bit earlier than what we're talking about it now. But still, what better time to talk about the movie than just now? Especially with all this Spider-Verse stuff that's going to happen in the MCU, with Tom Holland going to make a cameo in it, with the return of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and all those other guys getting the big screen spotlight once more. Like, no, seriously though, Spider-Verse is actually good.
It's awesome.
Yeah. It takes you back to this time period where Spider-Man, despite not having an anniversary, felt important for the year. Like, obviously, like first of all, you got a kick-ass video game for the PS4 which felt like the best that there has ever been for Spidey, and likely matches up with Spider-Man 2 in terms of quality. Although, like, sure, that one was, I'm sure, like, different platforms and all, but, like, the legacy that both games have is equal, in my opinion. Then
Same.
there's also the debut, the second appearance of Venom in Spider-Man Cinema, this time being a solo film. And sure, well, we mentioned it's not perfect. It is a nice film to watch, more than just a popcorn flick, and it's certainly enjoyable for fans that can't get enough of the symbiote. And in the MCU side of things, we had ourselves Spider-Man, Tom Holland, turning to dust, which is quite significant for the Holland fans because he died and it was sad, but for other fans that didn't like him much, it was enjoyable because we felt good while he didn't feel so good. As until he returned in 2019 with Endgame and Far From Home, which...
Yeah. And that's where our happiness ended.
But thankfully, we have Spider-Verse to keep us happy because Hot Mamas did a very unique movie to watch. I mean, not just for Spider-Man films, but also animated films in general, because it feels unique amongst your typical Pixar and DreamWorks and Blue Sky stuff, if you ask me. Where do we even begin with this one? Much like how we can't even begin with Uncut Gems until we broke it down, you and I.
Yeah, I would just start off saying that unlike previous Spider-Man movie, everything just collided to be very passionate and heartful in this movie. So that's what you actually perceive. And I just think that Spider-Man character is so beautiful that it kind of felt like a love letter to Spider-Man fans, Spider-Verse. So I was super grateful.
Yeah.
I do have to say that I just don't think that it is masterpiece or excellent. I just think it's great and amazing.
Yeah, the comment of it being a love letter and being unique isn't to say that prior Spider-Man films aren't good. Well, aside from two action ones.
Like the ones proximate to it, like few years before them, because I would just have, for example, I think Spider-Man 2 is much more essentially about Spider-Man, all its lore.
Yeah.
And I love it so much more than any other. So yeah.
I agree. But that being said, I still have to give a lot of props to Spider-Verse for being bold. Like, the movie alone gives us the introduction to Miles Morales, a character we've seen in comics and cartoons, but never in a movie. And even though it's an animated incarnation of the character, I still loved it. He's this sort of guy that doesn't feel like he'd have the same weight of responsibility that Peter Parker had. And especially obvious when he realizes just what happened to Spider-Man or Rip Peter at that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the moment...
Deep in our own selves, we were just picturing Tobey Maguire, the older Spider-Man.
Yeah, but like the moment Rip Peter was pretty much killed by the giant, thick, it's still beautiful looking, that's a weird term to use, but like Kingpin, the moment he was killed by Kingpin, it was an unexpected scene because, you know, it's an animated film. You think animated films are for kids, or you think Spider-Man's for kids, but like, they killed a version of Spider-Man. The one that basically introduced us as the one and only Spider-Man in the universe. And then we're stuck with this other Spider-Man, and I hate to use the term we're stuck with because Peter B. Parker is still good. He's just we just like him for different reasons than we normally would with Spidey. Like, this guy has seen a lot of shit. Like, he's got an opposite life of Rip Peter, obviously. You know, he's had a divorce with Mary Jane. He's pretty much suffered from a lot. He's gained weight. And he didn't handle like a champ, let's be honest.
No.
But unlike the god of Asgard's own sort of downfall with his character development, I think Peter B. Parker still worked in comparison because he just felt more human. He just felt more like he had someone, like a lot of stuff to balance, if you ask me. And that's what I liked about him. And seeing him interact with Miles Morales was a juxtapose to Rip Peter's interactions with him.
Yeah, it feels much more justified because the more the story develops, the more you see that Peter Parker is realized everything that's been wrong with his life.
Yeah, like you'd pretty much think that his life is great, but it ain't. Peter Parker is still just like Spider-Man may have a great, exciting adventures, but he's still Peter Parker deep down. And if you consider the stuff like his uncle's death, his prior life not being that social, or the fact he was a dork, definitely shows just how like unexpected you would expect his life to be.
Mhm.
Now, regarding him being Tobey Maguire or not is, well, I know he's going to show up in Spider-Verse in some way, shape, or form in a sequel or so, but he definitely does scream Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the voice is similar to him, but what makes it interesting is the fact that people, if setting aside their nostalgia, would find out that Tobey Maguire's life really isn't that good. I mean, he's done smaller roles, and he was also known for basically yelling at a fucking paparazzi because they were like going after him like a bunch of animals.
I mean, I'm in Toby's side. I think he can yell to anyone. Like he's allowed to.
Yeah, I just hope he doesn't yell at anyone for wanting to ask him. I just hope he doesn't yell at genuine fans, because there's a difference between the fans that actually love him and the MCU cocksuckers.
Oh,
But yeah, aside from Miles Morales and Peter B. Parker, we've also got the likes of Spider Gwen, Spider Man Noir, Spider Ham, and SPDR.
have we mentioned Miles Morales? Have we?
Well, I'm pretty sure I already mentioned the fact that Miles Morales is great to see in a movie. Even if it's not live action, we can definitely get to see how he handles being Spider Man from his training, as well as how his life was, how he met Peter, Rip Peter, as well as Peter B. Parker. But you can definitely add on to Miles Morales if you want.
Yeah, I just think that his relationship both with his father and uncle so pure. I just love it.
It's also interesting when you consider
Yeah.
the fact that he's got an uncle, the Prowler, and you'd expect Prowler to be like this nice guy because, well, we have like these moments where we think one of our relatives who's not our mother or father would be like a cool dude, but as it turns out, he's got like a surprise that you wouldn't expect him to do, and it kind of be heartbreaking too, especially considering that this is
Yeah.
his uncle that he looked up to, and it turns out to be a bad guy. It's just, I wouldn't want to be in Miles' shoes, honestly.
Also, that whole sequence in the house, I think it was in Aunt May's house, and you start hearing that soundtrack, Crawler. I just that whole scene is impregnated in my door.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like you'd get anything else like it. Although that being said, I do remember seeing a recommended. Although that being said, I do remember seeing a recommended video that says The Incredibles, Mr. Incredible in the lair, looking up the supers, but with a Prowler theme, which,
Oh,
yeah, that's actually something that I wouldn't expect someone to make, but hey, it works, no problem.
oh, I'm looking that up now.
While we look it up, what do you think about Penny Parker, Spider Gwen, aka Gwen Stacy, Spider Man Noir, and especially Spider Ham? Because those guys stand out from Peter B. Parker and Miles Morales too.
Dude, they are a great addition. They don't feel like uh how would you say, like third kind of characters. They are excellent secondary characters.
I especially like that they don't feel like repeats that much.
Yeah.
Like Spider-Ham is very cartoony, yet he still fits in with the crowd no problem because aside from being like an animal just like Spider-Man, he's also part of the ragtag team, which is the main point of the Spider-Verse cast. I mean, you got a Peter Parker who was pretty much a loser. He didn't handle himself like a champ, as we said. You got Miles Morales, who is just recently part of this Spider-Verse Spider-Man responsibility. And then there's also Spider-Gwen, who is in a similar role. I mean, she seems the most refined of the two boys, yet still she has her own issues. There's also Spider-Man Noir, who's very enigmatic, also played by Nicolas Cage. The last time we've ever got him in a comic book role since Ghost Rider. And Penny Parker, who is not just anime-based, but has also got a robot as a drone. If that makes any sense. Robot drone, same thing. But yeah, she's got a spider suit in the form of a giant mech, which, as stick figure-y as the limbs look, they're still badass nonetheless.
Yeah, and we got anime introduced somehow.
Like, it's still good, though. Like
Yeah.
you expect it to feel like this sort of weird thing just so you can try and appeal to certain demographics, but like I think it turned out quite well.
Yeah, I do agree.
Of them all, I think Spider-Man Noir is my favorite simply because I like his more enigmatic approach, and I also enjoyed Nicolas Cage being in the CBM role, as I mentioned. But I like them all equally, and may they all have continuous adventures that don't feel like the same sort of disappointment that we'd expected from Incredibles 2, or rather that we got from Incredibles 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think each character is like an excuse to add a new animation technique.
Yeah, but still good nonetheless. And now we mentioned Incredibles a couple of times. This definitely feels like the equivalent to the Incredibles for the Spider-Man universe, which not a bad thing. I mean, the first Incredibles movie is still fucking great, and I'm sure your typical stuck-up comic book nerds would probably say stuff like that they wish they'd actually see more genuine incarnations aside from those guys or the less cartoony ones, but not a problem with me. I like the cast, I like the story, and the fan service stuff, like all the references, didn't feel shoehorned in. Like, I'm honestly upset when we get Easter eggs and all this sort of stuff, but thankfully, the fan service was not in front of the movie. We still got genuine moments, such as when Miles got his own suit and did all these crazy stunts before finishing up and taking his mask off, breathing, and realizing just how insane what he's done, especially now he's a new Spider-Man.
You gotta say though, I do dislike Phil Lord, but those are for other reasons.
Yeah, like people may have like hate bonus for them, but I can at least set that aside for now because this movie just feels fulfilling. You know, I'm honestly happy with how it turned out. I don't know how the sequel will be. I'm pretty sure it may rely a little more on fan service, but we'll see. Either way, I enjoyed what we got, whether it's the characters or the fan service bits not being run into your face because they're actually genuine. Plus, I also liked seeing Spider-Man 2099 meet up with the 67 version. Although that being said, it did feel weird how 67 Spider-Man felt unchanged animation-wise, whereas the Miguel O'Hara Spider-Man 2099 animation used for that segment feels less feels a little more seamed. Doesn't feel as seamless, rather. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if what I'm trying to say is the fact that the Spider-Man's animation style from the '67 show felt specific. You know, it had a specific frame rate, specific filtering in terms of how it looked, whereas Spider-Man 2099 felt more like Flash animation trying to mimic an old show, kind of like the 2012 versus 1987 Ninja Turtles crossover, where the old Turtles were made of Flash animation instead of the similar animation that they had for Turtles Forever with the 2003 guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that felt weird, but hey, at least it worked well. And it was also nice to see a return of that old meme. In fact, it was kind of nice to see like the references to other stuff, whether it's the Raimi stuff, the TASM stuff, as brief as it was, or the MCU stuff, the popsicle,
Yeah.
Jingle Bells,
Messages type of
and
thing.
the cereal and all that stuff. But like, yeah, it definitely shows one thing, that no matter what happens, that there's always something to appreciate about Spider-Man, whether it's the old stuff and the new stuff too. Although the other new stuff that isn't this film, but is also a film and is from a different company, isn't as good as Spider-Verse.
But that might change soon, because the protagonist may become just a guest in his own movie. But we will talk about that another.
Yeah, one day. But yeah,
One
I
day.
definitely had to give a lot of praise to Into the Spider-Verse, quite a bit. It's very unique amongst all the other Spider-Man films and animation films in general, and I just love it to bits. I can't wait to see the characters again. And the fact they're even making a Marvel Legends of Peter B. Parker, Miles Morales, and all the other guys and gals is just... mwah. Yep. And that concludes today's episode. Now, as small as it was, and as, well, I want to say half-assed, we just hope that you understand the issues that our guests have, or our co-hosts have. But thankfully, we'll all be back once again for not just having 4 guests show up in one episode, but also 4 other individuals join us for a big crossover on a galaxy far, far away.
See ya.
Until next time, everybody, take care.